Okay, here we are. This is the last movie for January that we're going to discuss. It's me, Danielle, and
Yeah.
then and
And it's
then this
me,
is
Matthew.
and then
Hello.
this is say her name. Say her name.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, I'm
Oh,
Matthew.
um today is Love Exposure, which should in theory be a very long discussion, but we can't do that. And it's not because this is, the last one that we've been rushing to finish and squeeze in our very hectic schedule already. Uh, it's because it's kind of a hard film to summarize, right? I think.
Correct. Yes.
It's
It's a
4
four
hours
hour
long.
movie, and to give it justice would mean a fucking 4 hour or more review, you know? Like
Probably.
to give this movie complete justice and to try and review it the same way that we've reviewed every other film would be excruciatingly painful for us and for anybody listening.
Yes.
Um,
Um,
I'm
yeah.
sure we could if we wanted to give it a great review, maybe, who knows? But it's like
We'll save that for the 6-hour cut.
it's just like no, you know?
Yeah.
If you want to get the best effect of this movie, take what we say to you in our review that we do give and just go fucking watch it. Like sit down for 4 hours and enjoy this work because it is great. Um,
Yep.
but yeah,
So yeah, we're gonna time this one. We're gonna do 45 minutes here. I'm gonna start it here in a second. I'll say so,
and the
but
reasoning for that is because of
it's
what we've
because
just spoken about.
what we went to do with Punch Drunk Love, and then we didn't do it.
It's what we wanted
And
to do
we
with Punch Drunk Love, as you said just now. Yeah, we wanted to do it
yeah.
with Punch Drunk Love. We did not want Punch Drunk Love to go on as long as it did. But talking about
What can you
these
do?
films has been exciting, and we can go off on tangents and we just talk. Whereas for this one, as mentioned already, it's a 4 hour film. We want this one to just be as simplistic as possible. We want to keep it short. We're going to time ourselves to keep it as short as possible. And it's down to you, the viewer, to just go watch the film if you haven't already.
Yeah, I'd say it's notorious enough that if you know about it, you know about it, and if you don't, then I think some of the things that we talk about would be enough for you to go, "That's for me," or "No, that is not for me." So we will leave it at that, and we're gonna start in a minute, 1 whole minute. I'm gonna let the clock go for a minute. I kinda have to pee now. I'm not going to. It's okay. You're not gonna say a word. Okay.
You do whatever you got to do. If you want to go pee,
3.
well,
No. 3, 2, 1. Okay. We can't have this long of a pause if we're gonna fit everything into
well, I was hoping you'd like throw the first question at me. Okay, I'll throw the first question at myself in
No.
that case
Yeah.
instead. All right. The ultimate challenge in one sentence plot summarization. What the fuck is this movie about? Right, one sentence. I can do that quite easily.
Right.
A young kid loses his mum and wants to find true love. That's what the movie's about.
You're right. That is actually a lot more concise than what I tried to do. Yes. You're right.
That is
That
the
is
plot
really all it's
summarization.
about.
That is what this movie is about. A boy loses his mum. That's the start of the film. Literally, it's the start of the film. No spoilers, really. Opening sequel. He loses his mum. They're a Christian family. He loses his mum. His mum says, "Go find your true love." So that's what he does. That's what the movie is. He goes find his true love.
There are obstacles along the way.
Yep. But that is the
Yes.
plot. That's the plot in one sentence. Done. Right. Cool. Moving on. Um.
Done.
um. What it so it is about okay. So yeah. So this is a more in detailed. We'll do a slightly more in detailed plot, but again, keeping it to 45 minutes.
Right, right. Just
It
let's mention that as much as possible.
Yeah, let's cement that. It's 45 minutes, right? I'm saying it for ourselves. I'm not just
Well
saying it for the
well,
viewer. I'm
no,
just
I
saying
know,
it.
I know, I know.
I've got to try. I'm saying it out loud to myself to keep this as short as possible. It is about a Catholic priest's son who starts to sin on purpose. See, I've just told you the plot in one sentence, but now I'm going to tell you all of the other plots because there's plots inside the plot, right?
Yeah,
As with any
yeah.
movie. It's a Catholic priest's son who starts to sin on purpose in order to please his father and gets tied up in the machinations of an enroaching cult while trying to find the love of his life, quote unquote, his Maria, right? I mean, her
Yeah,
name's not
Maria.
Maria, but Maria's the name of the fucking Christian thing, right? It's
It's the
Maria,
Virgin Mary. Yeah,
Virgin
that's
Mary, right?
right.
He tries to find his Virgin Mary,
Hmm.
to yeah. Uh, that is again another a plot within the film.
And it's heavily entrenched in Christianity subtext symbolism, very blatant symbolism with the cross and erections. It's a movie about sex too, sort of.
hmm Yeah,
But not in the way of you see people fucking constantly. Do you even see anyone fucking in this movie?
I'd say the only real sexual scene that you see, like
Mhm.
one that you could potentially find arousing for some reason, is the part where you and Kaori kiss, and that's like way at
No,
the fucking end of the film. That's like,
Kaori.
am I getting her name wrong? Am I pronouncing it wrong?
What are we talking
Is
about?
Kaori not the
Mhm.
leader of the cult? Kaori's not the leader of
No,
the cult.
Kaori's the mom, not
Oh, is Kaori the mum?
I got their names messed up too.
Oh, okay. So is
We
Aya the
watched
mum?
it.
Is Aya the leader of the cult?
Yes. Aya Koike. I'm not gonna
Okay, Aya.
pronounce
Right.
that.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd say the most sexual scene is
Oh,
like
right.
the bit where she says "stick your tongue out" and she starts biting his tongue and making out of him. That other than that, there's no other really arousing part of the film, and that's
Wait,
like 3 hours 30 into the movie or some shit.
and that was with Yoko. Did we
Was that
watch the
with
same
Yoko?
movie?
Was
Yeah,
that the
no, because
girl on
there's the
girl?
part.
I
Yeah,
always
that
thought
was
that
the
was
girl
her
on
and
girl.
you.
No, that was the girl on girl. Because remember, he's watching behind the corner.
Oh no, you're
She
right.
does,
It's
but
in
she
the
does come
bedroom,
up to
right?
him and tries to. No, I think it's at the school.
Oh,
Is it? There's a lot that happens in this movie,
what
and there's a
the?
lot that are callbacks in this movie too, and that's the thing, is that there's a lot of stuff that you see at one point and then it comes back,
Okay,
and it's the whole thing, and,
yeah.
at the end, there's I think the part that you're remembering is the part in the church when she's trying to see if he can get a boner or not, but she's, like, grabbing on him and shit and, like, on his ear. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. So, right.
Yeah,
So
but
you
yes.
showed me a while ago. You showed me
Yeah.
a link to a letterbox that gave a rundown on the plot of this movie.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to read the whole lot, but I am going to sort of rip this off a little bit, just to give the viewer, because we want to keep this to 45 minutes. We don't want to explain the whole movie to you, as explained multiple times. Um, there is a bunch of spoilers in this. However, it's you're still going to have to go watch the film to understand all of it, right?
Right.
So, like, I'm not going to read out all 36, or wait, no, sorry, 38 points that are put in this rundown.
Yes.
However, I'm going to read probably 20 to 25 of them. I don't know. I haven't planned
Oh,
this. I'm gonna read off the ones that I feel are the ones that the viewer needs to hear. Okay.
yes.
So number like okay. So you here we have 237 minutes in length,
Mhm.
which is almost 4 hours.
Yes, just under.
Um, it includes a drag, as in the sense of a cross dresser, right? A drag,
Mhm. Okay.
tosatsu, kung fu, sex, lesbians, a Virgin Mary, kung fu butt kicking female teens. Um, there is love, romance, exposure, lust, betrayal, child abuse, perversions, a dead bird and a living bird,
True.
panties.
That's
That's a
a
main part of
lot
the
of
plot. There
panties.
is
Yeah.
panties. Um, religious idolatry, uh, rel-
Idolatry.
idolatry. Sorry, religious idolatry, religious blasphemy, Jesus worship, Kurt Cobain worship, a car chase, implied paedophilia, a porn industry, um, a demented and disturbing climax. Um, there is. Can you read this word for me because you know more about this than me? Number 37.
Oh, Corinthians 13 recited.
Corinthians
And then
13 recited.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Corinthians 13 recited in an impossibly, flawlessly, and perfectly timed dramatic way by the sea in a single shot, while Beethoven's Seventh Symphony in a major, Op. 92, 2, Allegretto plays in the background. Okay,
Yeah.
so to summarize that, a reading from the Bible is done very dramatically while Beethoven's it plays in the background.
Yes.
And to top it all
One
off,
take. Yeah.
the main plot, Japan. Okay, this is just this movie is a real life, what feels like at some points a real life hentai. Okay.
Yeah, no, it is. Um, and I think that I didn't think about that much until you had to stop to say it.
We was watching the film and I'm like, can you pause this for a moment? Doesn't this just feel like a real life hentai? Like
Yeah.
this is this is what you would either see in a hentai or read in like a hentai manga. This is it, but in a movie.
Yeah, it really is. It's absurd, honestly. I think that's the thing is that all of those things, but to be like a dramatic epic of a film that is on consistently on a lot of people's top 10 lists, not just mine. This is my favorite movie of all time, but it, on Letterboxd actually they did like a decade wrap up and it was mentioned as like being a really like a movie that people really liked and that they put in their top 10s and you wouldn't think that. I think maybe from hearing about it and even from some of like the technical stuff like it's kind of a it doesn't look that great in terms of a movie, it's the special
To
effects
touch
and
on,
everything.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry if you don't want to mess with the layout, then we won't. But while you're
Oh,
talking about
sorry.
that, while you're talking about that part
Yeah.
specifically, we could just jump ahead and then jump back. Like to talk
Yeah.
more on the
Okay.
technical aspects of the movie, they are very subpar. There are no good special effects in this film. The blood is extreme and unrealistic. The explosions are very CGI. Like if you want to take what I was talking about in the previous pod, where I was like, I don't really like the old Alien movies because the
Mhm.
CGI is very CGI. Um, that is what you get in this movie. The CGI is the explosion is very CGI. The dick being cut off is very CGI. The dead bird is literally a plastic bird.
Yeah.
You see it's a plastic toy and she picks it up and she's stroking it. Um,
Yes. Yes. All of those things.
all of the blood
Um,
in this, like the part where she stabs herself. Spoiler alert! Sorry, so many spoilers. Yeah, the part where she stabs herself is so CGI.
yeah. It really is.
But it
It's
doesn't take away from the movie. I just want to put that preface in there as oh,
yes.
whatever the correct word is. I want to just put that in there as well. It doesn't take away from what this movie is about and what this movie makes you feel, because this movie makes you feel emotions. What emotion? I don't know. It just go. It has some comedy in there. It has a lot of awkwardness in there. It has sadness.
Yeah.
I at one point during this felt quite sad. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you said you turned your camera off and I was like, "Are you trying to hide the fact that you're bored and not gonna watch it now or something?" And you're like, "No."
you all caps message me like you better be
Yeah.
watching this, and I'm like no, I just was a little bit sad and wanted to turn my camera off.
That's okay. It's understandable. It's a really heartfelt and sincere movie, but it's funny because I guess, like, the first thing that I showed you of it, or first extended thing I showed you of it, was the scene where he learns Tosatsu
Yeah,
and goes to Lloyd, the I don't know what he was called, they called him Master Lloyd. He was, like, some kind of like, a kung fu master, but a hentai master. Like, he he wrote a book about loneliness. He had all these, like, wood carving like art pieces that were all like really graphic sex and like and then he had all these mannequins set up and he had like these dudes dressed in karate garb doing an extremely absurd uh training session with you and his gang
yep,
about how to take upskirt photos
yep. And
and it's ridiculous.
to touch briefly on my like going into this raw, right? Not liking watching trailers and not liking watching this scene that you showed me is because when I saw this, and this could be, like how you said to me people walked out of Drive because they watched the trailer and they thought it was going to be a Fast and Furious movie, right?
Yeah.
I haven't watched the movie. I haven't watched the trailer for Drive. I just watched the movie.
Mhm.
However, you showed me this short clip from this movie, and I thought, what am I going to be watching? Am I going to be watching a comedy? You know?
Yeah.
And that's not what this movie was at all. But watching that and sort of watching, and that sort of being the trailer for me at that point, I thought I was going into a comedy movie. Um,
Mhm.
but that's not what it is. It's explained a lot more in detail why things lead up to that scene and that scene developing the story.
Yeah, because that's gosh, I guess that's the thing. He does that. That's his sinning, right? Is he decides to start doing that after he meets up with those delinquents that become his friends, and then
Yeah,
eventually that gets turned into him having to. He's forced to, right? So he's asked by the cult to
yep.
audition for a porn company to make upskirt videos, or videos of him doing upskirt photography, I guess.
If you don't
Uh,
mind, sorry, while you're talking about
yeah.
that, you carry on talking about that straight after I just give this point. We'll just move on to character development here, I guess, if that's what, because we'll just do character development here. Characters,
Mhm.
because right now you're talking about you as character, right? So we'll just talk about you as a character. That
Mhm.
and we'll just to keep it in line with the 45 minutes. I don't know how far in we are right now. I'm just
We
to
have
keep it in line with the
31 minutes left.
okay, to keep it in line with the 45 minutes.
Mhm.
We'll take this as you talking about you's character.
Yeah. That's, it's probably the biggest thing for him, right? Is him doing that. So he has to do that, and oh, you threw me a little bit. Damn it.
I'm sorry. You said that he
Why?
was you said that he
No,
had
it's
to
okay.
do what he was doing
It
and
starts
that
off, I think what I'm trying to say is that like this is it, what you're saying about how it looked like a comedy. It's not that when you go in. You can't really pin a genre on it besides maybe I guess drama, but even then there's a lot of comedy. There's a lot of horrific things in it, honestly, in terms of just the tension that builds. Um, and it takes you take that really silly part of the upskirt training, and then he joins like the porn company, and then that gets really dark
why does
in
he
that
do the
whole.
upskirt training?
Well, because his friends think that he's when he discusses that he commits sins, like that's why he does bad things is
Yeah.
to commit sins. They think that that everyone who meets him and learns that about him thinks that's so odd and like funny.
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Oh, you need to meet this guy." And it's that guy who's like his whole thing, Master Lloyd's whole thing is just being like a pervert.
And when you say odd as well,
Yeah.
it's not just like odd as in strange. Everybody that meets him thinks he's a pervert because he wants to sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like even though
But he's,
he's
like,
not
really cheery about it, and he's really open about it, and
yeah,
no one
he wants to
it's not
sin to please
typical.
his
Yeah.
father and he gets excited from pleasing his father. So everybody
Yeah.
thinks he's a pervert.
Yes. Yeah. So, but he's I think what that is, like, when we were talking about how this movie's very sincere and heartfelt, and that's why even with all those elements, when you watch it, you still feel something. It's his character is the same way. He's just very sincere. He's very upfront about everything he does. The reason why he's doing this isn't because he's a bad person or a pervert or anything. Not that they're bad, but it's just like he's doing that because he doesn't want his father to be upset because his dad obviously is going through a rough time. His dad's not a bad person either, right?
Yep.
And he has his own bullshit going on, which if we're talking about characters, we can kind of swap over to like what he's going through at the same time as like the leader of a church. He
Mm-hmm.
like moves out and into the church. And that's when Yu goes on his whole character arc of joining the gang and doing the upskirt photography is when he's living by himself. He's kind of emancipated at this point. And his father is then living in the church, and then a woman decides that she wants to be a Christian, or a Catholic, I guess, because
This
that's
woman
what it
just
is.
shows up randomly crying,
Yep.
screaming, crying on a bench, dressed
Yes.
up like she's looking like Kaori. She looks like a prostitute at the start when you first see her.
Hmm.
That's my point of view, anyway. She's
Yeah.
just there wailing the whole way through his speech, um, and then she forces this love upon him, and then she just disappears after 3 months. This is all in 3 months, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a very very short period of time.
Um, and he gets
And
all.
I think yeah.
Sorry, you carry on. You carry on.
No. No. No.
He get,
Well, I was gonna say because I know you wanted to bring up the point about the sex worker thing, and I would have agreed, and then I forgot that because this movie is so long and storied. When we're introduced to Yoko's character, we find out that she is a former girlfriend of her dad. And so I don't think that she was a prostitute per se. I think she was just like a loose woman, who was kind of floating through life and not really, she was dating a lot of men, I think. I think she was lost. Uh, I think that that theory could still work though, and maybe she was in between those moments, but she was just very carefree, and that's why Yoko was drawn to her, the girl that ends up being Yu's Maria.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So yes, she studies with him every single day, Tetsu, the dad, to be a Christian. And that really affects his personality, which in turn affects his son's personality or son's life, I guess. Not his personality, but his life. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
So,
she just disappears, and then Tetsu
yep.
changes as a person completely because the person that Tetsu is at the beginning, even after his wife passes away, he stays as a really nice person. And
Mhm.
honestly, for me, watching other movies or hearing about other people, I would expect that the moment the mum passes away, he turns into this spiteful person because that's just sort
Right.
of what happens in some people's lives, right? Someone
Right.
passes away, and then that person just becomes horrible. But in
Yeah.
this case, it was a lot different. She passed away. He still was still very loving, and he still gave these admiring speeches in church. And then Kaori shows up, and he teaches her about the learnings of Christianity and helps her become a Christian. He wants to become a father at the church, and then she disappears from his life suddenly, and then he turns spiteful. Um,
Yeah. Well, and I think it's guilt. And I think that's what spurns things on. And that's when we talk about how, like, he starts to beat him in confession and everything, is because he it's very fast. It's one thing happens right after the other. Even in this 4-hour movie, nothing really drags. It's moment after moment after moment. So Kaori comes into his life and gets baptized. And then after she gets baptized, it's like immediately after that, she says that she's in love with him. She does the confession. She wants to
yep.
do the confession, and that's a big like point of the movie is just people doing confessions. And he decides to start, being with her. He and then she gets upset. She leaves, and because here was this relationship that he was sneaking around for and it backfired on him, that's when he doubles down on that, like, okay, I'm just going to be really strict now about this because obviously the Lord was testing me and I I failed it and
Hmm.
everyone else is failing too. And so all he sees now are bad things.
Right. Um, and I'd say that's pretty much Tetsu's character. I mean, I know that Tetsu shows up more as the movie goes on, but I
Mhm.
think other than when you get quite late into the film and he ends up sort of being forced by Aya's character
Mhm.
to join Zero, I think there isn't. I mean, sure, there's the
It's
part
just
where
him
Kaori comes
coming
back.
back and forth. Yeah, it's their relationship dynamic and they fight and they're a real true couple and you believe that. You believe that they love each other and that they care about each other, but they also fight and they also get into shit with each other and that's really what their arc is just about that love that they've found. I mean, this is his first love after his wife died, so it's
Hmm.
very important in his life.
And it could
Um,
even just be the second love of his life, in full stop. Not even
yeah.
just after his
Yeah.
wife goes, but just because. Just I don't know. I'm just picturing it's Japan. He's a Christian.
Mhm.
He could have just found his wife when he was 14 or 15, and they just loved each other up until the point where she dies. And then this is literally just
Right.
the second person in his life.
I think that is how yeah, I think that's valid. I think that's probably what it was. And so that's their whole thing. And they easily take up with Aya. Um but then you have there's so much in this movie. Oh my god.
It's fine. We'll move on to another character here.
Yes.
Honestly, I think we've spoken a lot
Yes.
about
Go.
Tetsu. Um, the so if you was to talk about Yoko's character, um, just some brief character development for Yoko. Um, we first see her when she's in the car with Kaori, right? Or we first see her.
Mhm.
She goes and picks up her new uniform. She gets
Mhm.
in a car with Kaori. They drive off. Kaori turns around and says, "I want you to meet this guy." She gets out of the car and walks off in a storm. Um, then it turns out that she can do karate. She does a little karate scene. She meets Miss Scorpion, who, by the way, is a persona for you. Just in case you was
Yep.
wondering. She does some kung fu, she beats up some bad guys, she meets Miss Scorpion, she falls in love with Miss Scorpion. Um, she then wants to find Miss Scorpion again so that she can meet her and kiss her and make love to her, and she masturbates over her. Um,
Yep.
she then
And
meets Yu, who is then sort of forced upon her to become her brother, which is a big thing for both of them because neither of them were expecting it. Yu
mhm,
Yu is dressed up as Miss Scorpion and first meets Yoko at the same point. This is where they first meet each other, and he also falls in love with her, but he falls in love with her as Yoko, and she falls in love with his persona. Um,
mhm.
so the rest of the movie is like him
It's all a
being,
lot of irony collapsing their lives in
yeah,
on themselves because everything also you're led to believe that the cult lady, Aya, is the person who's been like pulling the strings the whole time and making all of this happen. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I think a lot of it was a lot of her talking and stuff, but there was a lot of lead up of her. She's observing everyone while all this is going on. And so then there's a point where after that fight and everything, and after things get, um, extreme in that family, she goes to the school and then she decides to pretend that she's Miss Scorpion because
yep.
if if Yoko doesn't know it's you, and so she like stages a whole like fake fight in the classroom and then reveals herself to be Miss Scorpion, and Yoko believes her.
To briefly touch on what you said about her listening in constantly and
Hmm.
stuff, just an FYI for anybody listening. Everything is wired, by the way. Everywhere is
Oh
wired.
yeah,
That's
everything
another
is
thing. That's another thing to add to the plot. Everything is wired. She can hear everything. The church is wired. The house is wired.
hmm.
The school is wired. I think. I don't know.
Yep.
Everything is wired. Aya is listening in on every conversation and smiles to herself with a very perverse smile and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, she learns everything about you. She learns everything about Yoko from just not from just listening in on them, and then she just pretends to be Miss Scorpion, as you said.
Yep. And so, she, Yoko falls for the whole thing and believes, that that's who that is.
Yeah. So then she falls
And
in
this
love with
is,
Aya.
yeah, yep. And that's when Yu's just starting to, I mean, he's getting really beat down at this point. And so then Aya then next turns his whole panty shot thing into,
A
it
big
turns it
scene in the
against him.
school. Yep.
Yep. Just lets everyone know it.
Yep.
Lets his dad know it, right? Yeah, his
Yep.
dad and Carrie know it.
And
And
now everyone's calling him a pervert.
yep.
So then
And
now, of all the times, now he decides that finally wants to tell Yoko that he is Miss Scorpion. So he dresses
mhm.
up as Miss Scorpion, punches Aya in the face, uh,
Yeah.
runs to the park, calls Yoko, says, "Come and meet me. This is Miss Scorpion. You've been told lies by this other person pretending to be me." Yoko goes to the park. Yu turns around, takes off the hat, takes off the glasses, and says, "Hi, I'm Miss Scorpion." And she goes like, "No, you're not. Fuck you," and runs off.
And why would she believe him, right?
Why?
It's
Yeah,
too
yeah,
late.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
If
but he
anything,
meant well the whole
like,
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
No, no, it's fine. I was gonna say like, if anything, he's just called her up as, but like as his Miss Scorpion Elias.
Mhm.
He's said to her, alias Elias. I always get that word wrong.
It's
He's
fine.
just said to her, "You've been lied to this whole time. I'm the real Miss Scorpion. Come here and I'll show you who the real Miss Scorpion is." She shows up and she's like, "No, this is the lie. I know who Miss Scorpion is. This is the lie."
Yeah. Yeah. Because, if Aya's listening in, she used like secrets, things that they thought were secrets to gain that trust.
Hmm.
Things that everyone else thought that she wouldn't know, or not everyone else, but Yoko, thought that she wouldn't know, um, to do that. And then so he runs off and he's upset, and then he goes back home and his family is gone, and
Yeah.
so is Yoko, and so is Aya, and
And it's not
that's
like
when
he
he.
just runs off for 30 minutes, goes back home, and they're all gone. He runs off like to live with his three friends. Oh, by the way, he's got three friends who are in a perverse group with him. Um, he goes and
Like
lives with them for a little bit.
delinquents, yeah,
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 delinquents. Yeah, like a Japanese gang that you would see in an
yeah,
anime.
yes,
He goes and lives with these
hentai or
delinquents for a little bit.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and then he goes back after what, like a week or a few weeks, I think, and
probably.
it's empty, and they've moved out, and they've gone and moved into they've gone and moved into the cult at this point because Aya brainwashed them, right, into thinking
Mhm.
that it's their fault that Yu turned out the way that he has. And when I say their fault, sorry, Aya has brainwashed Yu's family, so Yoko and Tetsu, and even not Yoko and Tetsu, Tetsu and Kaori, and even Yoko, all three of them into believing that
Yeah.
they're all sinners. It's all their fault that Yu turned out the way that he has. They're all sinners. They need to join this cult.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
so then
And
that leads to that.
yeah, and so then that's when he's like sent messages from them. I think it's Aya is always followed around by like these two other girls that are dressed like her. They're like her little cult minions,
Yeah,
and so they're like her messengers at this point. So they bring him a thing like you need to go, interview with this thing. So he auditions for the porn company. I think it's called like Bukaki Shaw or something. Like and it has a little mascot that's like a little penis and balls with like the eyes and the
yep.
the penis is its nose or something. It's just silly, um, and honestly amazing in terms of the detail that they put into that part. And so he has to join them, and he starts making videos for them. And his friends are overjoyed, of course, and they mean well, but they're really happy to join. This is like something they can do because otherwise, I mean, as delinquents, they don't have any other sort of options in that society. So they join, this, and he makes a lot of videos. And then they ask him to act in the films, like have sex with women. He doesn't want to because the only person he's even aroused by is
He can't get a
Maria.
boner for anybody else
Yeah,
except for his Maria.
and I think that's one interesting point, right? Because he's here taking all these fucking panty photos, and you'd think, oh, he must be jerking off over Emerson. No, he doesn't. It's not like that for him. It's just that he's sinning. He
Yeah.
does not. It does. He gets nothing from it other than that.
He is
And
just doing this to please his dad at this point of the
yeah,
movie, and then he finds Yoko later on. Like he doesn't even find Yoko by snapshotting her panties. Like
it's just by chance. Her skirt
it's
flies up because of wind,
yeah,
right in
it's
front
just
of
by
her.
complete
Or in
chance.
front of, yeah, yeah. So,
Like yeah, the job
uh,
is just the job for him. What he's doing is to make his dad happy for that part of the film.
yep.
Yeah. Uh,
And so in that then he has to do like a pervert event. He meets someone, this comes up later, who their fetish is detonating a bomb.
mhm.
So
Rumors
that's where we
detonate a
talk
bomb.
about the explosion. He does meet up back with him later. That character is kind of funny, as dark as that is. Because that's the thing where I was talking about things calling back, right? So when he attends this event as a sort of penance for not wanting to fuck people on film, he has to be a priest in a pervert confessional,
Yeah.
which is very, how fitting, right? That he has to now do that for that role. Um, I guess as you brought up a point. I need to find it on here. About his dad. Yeah. So you think that he wanted him to make the same mistake as him, right? And then what was this part right here? Can you elaborate on it? I guess this when he's confessing.
Oh, so no, this
Yeah.
is like at the beginning of the film. I think I've
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So this is like so you like okay. So I'll take the quote and then I'll take my
Mhm.
response. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a quote in the film where his dad says, "What was that about? You're not serious." And the reason for this quote is because, as we mentioned before, you is doing sins to please his father, and then he makes up some sins. He'll like lie about a sin,
Mhm.
and then his dad realized that he was lying about sins. So then he started to forcefully do like some shitty sins. So then his dad was like, "Why are you like making up these terrible sins, or not even making up, but just doing it?" He's like, "Oh, I stepped on some ants, you know," and his dad's like, What was that? What? Are you serious?" Um, and I think that what Tetsu wanted you to do was to make the same mistake as him. And and what I mean by that is, like the mistake Tetsu made was finding love, or not,
Mhm.
or like doing something against Christianity, finding love and breaking the Christian law.
Naturally,
And
not forced. Yeah.
yeah, uh, and that is what he wanted you to do, so that he could see himself in you and hit him. Like
Yeah.
I think he wanted to release the anger that Tetsu had for himself on you,
And
and
so yeah, and so I think inadvertently that comes full circle when he has to be that priest at the thing. He's wearing, like, garish makeup, and he's wearing, like, a satiny, like, priest garb, and he's having to sit there and listen to people talk about really fucked up stuff, like, really fucked up stuff, like
yeah,
liking kids and, like, shit like that, and he has to say, "You're forgiven. You're forgiven. You're forgiven," just over and over and over again, whether or not he believes anything that they're saying.
and he sticks to
And
that. And this person sits down and says about the bomb. He says you're forgiven, and then he's like, "Wait, what?
wait,
Did you
what?
just say you're
Yeah,
gonna blow up a bomb? No, don't know. Well,
yeah, he's like,
don't."
"Wait, can I do it right here? It would be so cool." And he's like, "I'll talk to you afterwards." And then yeah, and then the next point is then the minions come back and they sit down and they show he gets to talk to Yoko, but she is gone. She is totally in the cult at that point. Um, and w they kidnap her, right?
Yeah,
They try to
she's I
find
don't
her,
even,
but
she's not really
yeah.
kidnapped. Oh, are you talking about when the delinquents kidnap Yoko?
Yes.
Not that.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you was
'Cause
trying
we
to
got
say that
11 minutes
Yoko got
left, so let's
kidnapped.
move.
Oh, we have 11
Yeah.
minutes. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so they kidnap her. They put her in a bus. They try to. What's the word that you used?
Deprogram.
They try to deprogram her because it turns out that everybody that's in the cult is programmed to think certain ways, and it's hard to get them out
Mhm.
of the programming. They go kidnap her. They put her in a bus with you. They keep them in there for I don't know. It feels like a couple of weeks or at least a couple of nights.
It's probably like yeah,
He
there's probably
tries to
like 4 or 5
deprogram
days.
her, finally gets her deprogrammed in the part where he sits there and he's reading from the Bible. He's reading this part from the Bible,
Mhm.
and he inadvertently unprograms her. But then, literally the next day, Aya and her minions and everybody else all shows up again, re-kidnaps her, and also kidnap you at the same time. And then they
And now
try to
he is a part of
program
it.
you into thinking
Yeah.
into joining the cult. He pretends to have joined the cult just so that he can do some elaborate plan. And then we're going to skip a whole lot here, and we're just going to get to the part where Yu has infiltrated somewhat, right? He's infiltrated by pretending that he's part of the cult. Um, he,
He pretends that he's bought into all of their nonsense.
yeah, and then
He successfully yeah.
he goes and finds some paperwork to find out where Aya and Tetsu and
His
Kaori and
family.
Yoko
Yeah.
will go. He finds this paperwork and finds out that they go to a hotel on like a certain floor at a certain time.
It's the headquarters, yeah.
Yeah. So then he re-meets up with the person that wanted to set off this bomb, and he's like he takes the bomb from him, and he goes to the hotel, um, and leaves the bomb on the bottom floor or on one of the floors.
He
Um,
takes it to the it's somewhere on the it's somewhere up high.
yeah,
Because he goes to, like, I think they list what floor it's on. He makes it past all these cult people. He sees he kills the
he kills what we
regional
find out is
like
the cult leader, right?
yeah, I think so,
Who
yeah,
is
yeah.
a very nasty man who we haven't spoken about at all, but he's a very horrible man. He kills the cult leader with a like slicing his throat or stabbing him in the neck, one of the two.
Mhm, and just it's
Lots of
another
blood, CGI,
over
blood
yeah.
everywhere,
Well,
unrealistic.
it's I think it's just a yeah, it's watery and
It
weird.
spurts out
Yeah.
everywhere. And then he goes into the room where his family is. Aya kills herself. He kills a bunch of the people. Um, the whole family's there screaming. Um, there's a scene where
And
Yu gets choked out by
yeah.
Yoko. He cries blood. That's
Mhm.
a big part, so I feel like I need to add that. He cries blood.
Yeah.
Um, fast forward all of that. Yu is now in a mental home. Not Yoko, Tetsu and Kaori are now trying to get deprogrammed by being part of some yoga class. Um, Yoko
They're trying to be yeah, they're trying to be together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yoko now lives with a different family. They're a very sweet family. She goes to bed one night. She's got a sister, by the way. The sister talks about how she cries blood. She gets a flashback of you crying blood, um, which we didn't realize at that point. We think that he's just sort of bleeding
Mhm.
from the eye. She gets a flashback to you crying blood. She says, I didn't understand anything," whereas she thought she understood everything from the beginning. She says, "I didn't understand anything." She goes and visits you, who's now, by the way, in a mental psych and thinks that he's Miss Scorpion completely, thinks he's Miss Scorpion,
Mhm.
screams at him that you're not Miss Scorpion, you are the love of my life, you are you. And he goes, "Who's you?" She says, You are you. Um,
Of course, you have to do that. Okay, yeah.
um, and and then he realizes that he's you, and it's sort of like she's doing the same thing that as what he tried to do for her in the bus.
Mhm.
She's trying to get him to realize that they love each other, they loved each other, she loves him, deprogram him, sort of thing. He finally snaps. He realizes that he's you. He chases after her in the police car as it's driving off. She's in a police car now because they got her in a police car because she went crazy in a psych ward.
Brought a fucking knife in there, yeah.
Um, he chases after her, runs past all of these doctors in the psych ward, chases after the car, smashes the police car window open with his elbow. Oh, and also she chokes out the policeman to stop the police car. Um,
Yeah.
and then they hold hands. End scene. The direction of the film, the speed of the film, was it fast paced? Yes, it was very fast paced. You've already
Yeah.
mentioned this. You've mentioned this already. It was a very fast paced film for a 4 hour film. For how much is in the film, it is still very
Mhm.
fast paced.
Yes.
Um, it doesn't take away from anything. It doesn't make it a bad film. Um,
It's a lot, though. Yeah.
yes, prolific director. He put a lot into this work, and this is definitely a masterpiece for him. Great music, great score. You've said this already. I want
Mhm.
you to touch on the score briefly if you can.
Yeah, so there's a lot of classical pieces that are used in it, but they use that, the one that you mentioned with the Corinthian scene, Allegretto, they use that, I think 3 times. It's used in a lot of movies, it's used really well here. He's used it in other movies as well, but it's just it's like the I don't know, the crowning achievement of this movie, I think, because it supports that scene so well and the ending scene so well. Um, and
When
then
you
there's
want to
a
talk about
song
score, there is a lot
with
of, and like the Beethoven one is
yeah,
just like the one that you can point out there, and
everyone knows and yeah,
but a lot of the music in this is somewhat like that. It's all sort of like
it's yeah,
that
classical
instrumental
pieces,
classic,
dramatic. Yeah.
dramatic, and
But then
it's a
there's, like,
very
a
nice
cult
score.
song that it's very catchy and, like, upbeat, but then they sing it in the church.
Oh, yep,
Um,
yep,
yeah,
yep,
so that's really good. We already talked about the technical part. It looks
yep. We've
it
done
it's
technical, we've
the
done
budget
pace.
is not I don't know. I don't know. Um, and then the dialogue, I think there's some kinda suspect moments, like, where I think, Kaori says that she raped Tetsu beautifully. I don't think
Yeah,
that's what they meant.
yeah. So there
I
was
don't think
two
that's what they
bits.
meant.
There's that one that you mentioned, and then there's one
Yeah.
that you actually mentioned while we was watching the film. I remember you paused it,
Mhm.
because you didn't mention this one while we was doing the film, but you've put it in your notes, like the whole
Yeah.
"I raped him beautifully" part. But then there was another one where the the delinquents say something, and it's like I think that bit got you paused it and was like I think that bit got translated incorrectly, and
Yeah.
we sort of figured out what it should have been translated to just by guessing what it should have been translated to, but in
There's
the
a lot of the
translation it was
stuff
very weird.
yeah. It was a lot of the stuff with, being called, like, a pervert, and it was kind of yeah, it's muddled because it's a huge theme, right? There's a lot of stuff where it's like, even doesn't matter what type of person you are,
I think it might have just been
within
something
reason.
as simple as they called him weird, and it just seemed very weird. It just seemed very strangely
Yes.
translated. I don't think they were calling him weird in that part. They were calling him a pervert. That's
Yes.
all that was, right?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Um,
so that's
how long do we
they
have
used
on
a
this timer?
lot.
Sorry
We
to
have
bring it.
5 minutes.
We
We
have
have
five
5
minutes. Oh,
minutes.
so we're doing great. Okay,
Yes.
so cool, fantastic. So we set
So,
ourselves a
how do
45
you
minute
feel
time.
about the movie
How do I feel about the movie?
when
I
all is said and done? Would you tell the average movie viewer to watch this?
no,
Okay. Yeah, I
but
wouldn't
not because
either.
it's bad. Not for any reason.
Right.
Like it's just
It's a lot.
in like I want to think of in what situation would I tell someone to go watch this? But because the thing is, I did enjoy it, and I would
Mhm.
like other people to know about this film if they don't already know about this film. It's just in what situation would I turn around and say go watch Love Exposure? Because I'd make myself look like a freak for watching Love Exposure. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, kind of, yeah, no, it's true. I mean, when people have asked me, because when they find out I like movies and they say like, "What's your favorite movie?" and then I say this, I always get a little embarrassed,
It's like
and
for
I don't
me,
know
right?
why.
When I talk about anime, I turn
Yeah.
around to people and I say, "Oh, you like anime? Have you watched this one called Kyoran Kozoku Nikki?" And the one that I showed you one episode of,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is
Okay.
totally crazy, right? And
But
it's
yeah.
like, no, they haven't seen that. I try to suggest for them to see it, but at the same time, I'm thinking in my head, I don't really want this person to watch this and come back to me and say you're a weirdo, because it's such a crazy anime. Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, this is in movie terms. Love Exposure is just it's good. I don't want to say for a second that it's not good. I want anybody that's listening to this, because we haven't spoiled the whole thing. That's why we made it so short. I want
Yeah.
anybody that's listening to this and anybody that's listened to what we've said about this film, I want you to make your mind up right here and now and say to yourself, if you haven't watched the film already, I want you to say to yourself, what I've heard in 45 minutes makes me want to go watch this film. Or I want you to sit there and say to yourself, hey, not my thing. Leave a comment. Um, Tell us what you
Yeah.
thought of the review at least.
That sounds kind of stupid. Who knows? I
Yeah.
mean,
Say in the
um,
comments, hey, this film sounds kind of crazy. Not for me, sorry. As much as I love
yeah.
films, no, I'm not going to watch this one that's 4 hours long. Or turn around and say, hey, you guys really did a great job of explaining this. It's made me want to go watch it. I'm back 4 hours later. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
My case I'll make for it is that I it's not too quirky of a movie that I think it would be like off-putting. It's not experimental, I don't think, and like besides the length. Um, but for me, as someone who likes movies and likes being moved by movies, and I get very invested in films emotionally, and I like that. I don't like, tear jerkers or things like that. I don't like movies that are super hokey. You know, I just like good movies. When I first saw this movie, I sat through 4 hours of it, and then I immediately rewatched it
Yeah.
because I
Wow.
liked it so much.
Holy shit. What,
I did.
instantly? Not even.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
I did, yes.
Cool. Here's something I thought of, right?
Mhm,
The type of person that I would uh suggest this film to, if you are an avid moviegoer, right? If you have sat down and watched the long cut of Lord of the Rings, or if you've watched the long cut of the DC film that came out recently,
yeah,
if you've watched either of those long cuts, right? If you're into long movies, or if you're not phased by long movies, watch this, please.
absolutely, yes.
Right? Because if you're down to waste your fucking time watching Lord of the Rings, right? Watch this film. Um,
This isn't a time waste, I think, if you can sit through, because a lot of people don't have the attention span for that, even with a movie like this that I think could hold someone's attention span. Um, I think that this is an essential movie. If it was a shorter movie somehow that still had the same impact, I would say I would 100% recommend it to anyone, I guess. I
how
think
did we
it's
do for
that's
time?
the only hurdle. We're at 50 seconds.
Oh, cool, great.
Anything you wanna add?
Did
Are
you
you
have a
good?
favorite
Good?
scene on the spot?
My
50 seconds.
my favorite scene is the beach scene.
The
It's the
beach
beach
scene, the
scene
whole
when
beach scene, yeah.
she
With okay,
it's just that part where she reads
with the
it in one
dialogue.
take.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that was really good.
yeah, I can
Um,
rewatch that anytime.
oh we've probably got like 30 seconds at this point, and I don't
Yeah,
have a favorite scene. The whole film is good. Um,
yeah.
My favorite scene is where he cries blood. My favorite scene is two different scenes combined into one. It's where he's being choked out and the,
Mhm,
the, the tear runs down his eye. Because at that point for me, I thought he was bleeding from the eye. But then later on, you find out from the girl that is the Yoko's sister
mhm.
now, she turns around and she goes like, I cry blood. And then it clicks. He was crying blood. And I didn't even know that people could cry blood. I don't, is that a real thing? He was crying
Fine.
blood. And that's it. Okay.
Yes, though.
Okay. 45 minutes done.
We did it.
Cool. Thanks for
And I
listening to
feel
the
satisfied.
podcast.
Hey, what we're gonna wrap up
Oh, we're going to
January.
wrap up? Okay.
We have to and we've done this on the other ones, but it's January's over. We did it. Finally. These are probably all gonna come out, like, one after the other in quick succession.
Honestly, this
Um,
is going to mean, like, this will mean nothing to you as the viewer, but for us, we've got a set plan on how we want to do things, okay?
yeah.
We wanted to watch two movies one week, review those two movies the next week, watch two movies the week after that, review two movies the next week. 4 weeks, 1 month, easy peasy, no stress. However, and again, you're not going to know this because you're not like sure we spoke about it a few times in the podcasts that you're going to listen to, but a lot of things got in the way this week. Like I came not this week, sorry, this month.
Yeah.
Um and it was sort of like a mixture of anxiety issues. It was a mixture of me having a horrible cold. Um there were a couple of arguments, or there was one argument. Uh and it just everything things just kept getting in the way, and but we've done it. We've done it. We've
Okay.
we've watched all four movies. We've reviewed all four movies, and I just honestly I hope that you, the listener, have had fun for this first month and tune in for next month.
Yeah, we have a lot of good things. I'm proud of what we've the schedule that we've come up with, and I think that there's going to be some even better discussions based on some of the things that we've selected. This one was fun, but I think we have a lot more interesting themes coming up. So I'm really excited for next month and for the month after. And the month really I think once we redrafted it recently. I think
Yeah,
it's really solid.
I was going to say as we do this, I was going to say, because I know that, like, I think it was on the first podcast, I
Mhm.
started throwing out some spoilers of like what our genres were set up.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, and I was going to say to you here and now, I was just going to ask because we've reorganized it a little bit. Do you mind if I then redo those spoilers so that people know what they're going to be
Yeah, go ahead.
getting in
Yeah,
the
let's do
coming
that.
months, right? So, I mean, if you've listened to our episode one and you had it in your mind the things that we were going to do, and you're one of those people that has gone back and rewatched those videos, and they're like, oh, so and so month they're going to do this, and you're really excited for that month or something. I just want to tell you that we've changed the genres slightly. So I'm now going to tell you the new lineup that we have for genres. Okay, so this month, sorry, January, you already know it. It was unconventional romance. It was a great month. Um, February, which is next month, we're going to be doing drug films. I'm not going to tell you all of the films in those as well. I'm just going to tell you the genres at this point. February, we're doing drugs. March, we are doing what is called body snatchers. April is going to be downer endings, so that's films that, you know, just bum you out at the end or just aren't a happy ending because I love those films. I love unhappy ending films. May, we're doing multiple personality plots.
Mhm.
June, we are doing survival females. Now, I
Mhm.
think where survival females used to be was toxic femininity, right?
Yeah.
So that is now survival females because we've changed the movies that are going to be in that genre.
Yeah.
Um, July, we have death games. So that is anything where, you know, people die
Battle
to
Royale.
survive.
It's
Yeah,
just Battle Royale.
battle royales. August, we have dysfunctional sexuality. Now September, this one's a different one completely. We've
Ooh.
removed the whole genre here to add this one, and I hope that when you hear this, you tune in for September because September we have Keanu Appreciation Month. Not
Hell
even
yeah.
a genre, just an appreciation month for Keanu Reeves,
It's
um, the
Keanu the
man, the
genre.
myth, the legend.
Yes.
It is his month of birth. It is the month
Yes.
that he was graced onto this earth or graced the
So
earth.
we were blessed with Keanu in September. Yes.
October we have revenge films.
Mhm.
November we have genre shifts slash emergent plots. So it's you think it's going to be one thing and then it becomes another. And December, the year of the not December, the year not the year, December, the month of joy. Christmas is going to be racism is fucking horrible.
Yeah. It's gonna be
Um,
a real good, joyous, warm holiday schedule there for that. These were randomized, by the way. There was no rhyme or reason to this beyond the Keanu Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
all of the genres were picked by us, though that and then we picked all of the movies for it, and then you randomized the order, and you also
yeah,
randomized the order in which we watch the movie in each one, right?
yes, yeah, sure did.
Um. So
Sure
yeah, it's
did.
all random. We didn't put racism there. It's just a fucking randomizer. It's
But
just
I will say, I know we didn't want to spoil any of the titles, but I will say just for what's next after this one, the first one that we're gonna do, the next one that you'll see is Wolf of Wall Street. That's our first drug movie for February, so I think that'll be. I'm excited. I like that one, and you've seen that one, so
I have. And
yay!
and do I want to do more spoilers? I was like,
Yeah,
should I just mention all of the ones that I've watched? When
yeah,
because
yeah.
like I feel like the fact that I've watched them, I feel like anybody else that is maybe an avid moviegoer like yourself has definitely maybe watched these, right?
Hmm.
Or if you're even just a casual moviegoer, like what I think I am, I'm a casual movie person. You will have seen these ones that I list off, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd watched Deadpool. I kind of think any casual modern age movie person maybe has watched Deadpool, right? You've
Yeah.
got The Wolf of Wall Street and Pulp Fiction are in drugs. In Body Snatchers, you get to watch The World's End, which is, I refer to that as the Cornetto trilogy because that is what a lot of people refer to that as. That is the third one in that series, right?
Mhm.
Um, in April, with Downer Endings, we have Seven. I don't know if the casual moviegoer would have watched Seven. It's just that I was one time at an ex-girlfriend's house and she had Seven on DVD, and I was like, "Oh, this has Morgan Freeman in it. Let's watch it." Because we was just looking for something to watch.
But it has Brad Pitt, so a lot of people have watched it for Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah, there's also that. And speaking of Brad Pitt, May multiple personality plot has Fight Club.
Spoilers. Yeah, sorry.
Um,
Yeah.
and also in May, multiple personality plot has Split.
Yes.
Jumping to July, in Death Games, we have Battle Royale. Again, I don't think a casual movie watcher may have seen Battle
Yeah, it's
Royale,
true.
but
It's just Japanese Hunger Games.
yeah,
That's all.
I think the reason I've seen Battle Royale is me being a weeb my whole life, um, and wanting to watch Japanese culture films. And I was just again, it was at someone's house. It was at a friend's house. This is the weirdest one, right? I was at a friend's house and we watched two movies that night. And it wasn't just me and him. It was me. I think we was having a sleepover with like me, him. We were all like 15 or 14. We had this sleepover with me, him, uh, a couple of other like girls and guys from our group of friends, and we're all just in the living room sleeping on the floor. Like, let's put a movie on. So we watched two movies that night. The two movies we watched were Butterfly Effect and Battle Royale.
Butterfly Effect. Oh my god.
Those are the two films that we watched. At 14, having a sleepover, laying on the
Jesus
floor with each other,
Christ.
we put on Butterfly Effect and Battle Royale. And I will always remember that night. It was a great night. We watched some great films.
Hey, there you go. I actually don't mind Butterfly Effect. I actually had put that on our list at one point and then took it off before I'd posted it on here. So that's
All
funny.
right. And then jumping from July to September, Keanu Appreciation Month. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if everybody has watched all of these films. I've only watched two of them. Well, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact John Wick 3 is only in this, then I would have watched more. Like, if you're
Yeah.
talking John Wick the series and Matrix the series, I've watched more. But of what we're going to be watching specifically, I've seen John Wick 3 and I've seen The Matrix. Uh, October revenge films, Kill Bill 1 and 2. We're only going to be watching number 2, was it?
Yeah.
And jumping to December, racism is fucking terrible.
Mm.
We have Django Unchained. Or Django,
The
not
Django.
Django. Django Unchained.
I
I'm
don't know.
sorry.
The Django.
Django.
Yeah.
We have
And I
Django Unchanged.
bias, I guess, right? I've seen all of them except for Knock Knock, which is in Keanu
Yeah, yeah.
month.
Jumping back to the
So
or going back to the Keanu month. Is
yeah,
that seriously the only one you haven't
that's
seen
the
out of
only one I haven't
everything here?
seen. I had to
Damn.
vet some of these, right? Like
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of movies, and I'm sure there are better things that
And
we could
there's
have put in
48
here,
movies,
but
right? That's 48
yeah.
movies. 48
Mhm.
movies, you've seen 47 of them.
Yes.
And I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 out of 48. I've seen 1 month's worth of
One per
films.
month. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So there you go. I'm excited though. I think it's gonna be fun
No, not
and
even 1 month, sorry. I've seen 3 months of these.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't foresee this changing anymore, but it could, but we'll still say something if it does, but
Yeah, so
I
I
don't
mean,
see it changing. Yeah.
there's been quite a few changes from our episode 1 to this episode, right? Because episode 1
Mhm.
we didn't have the layout that we did in episode 2, 3 and 4. And also we changed, and when I say I mean layout as in like the way that we
Mhm.
approach talking
Discuss,
about these
yeah.
films, right? We didn't have that, and also we changed some of the movies and some of the genres. Um, Going forward, as you said, not going to be too many more changes. Um, there will be a change to the upload times at some point because, like, as you've said already, it's going to
Mhm.
just be like we will get round to editing these soon, hopefully, and then they will just get churned out. Um,
Yeah.
and
Um,
if you're new to the channel, you're literally going to just see 4 videos go up one
all
after
of a
the
sudden.
other.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas hopefully past that point, it will
There'll be a
become
schedule.
a
Yeah.
schedule.
Yep. And we'll divulge those details as we go on, but I feel good about today, and I feel good about this, and I'm excited. So yeah, thank you for joining me for a 4-hour film and for all these other movies.
No worries. Thanks for showing them to me, honestly.
Of course.
Yeah. Closing out, go watch the film if you haven't already.
Yeah,
Or don't. Fuck you.
I
Thanks
don't.
for
Yeah.
listening to the podcast. Listen to the next one. Or don't. Fuck
Same.
you.
Or don't look you.
Leave a comment in the comment section below, please. Like and subscribe. Or don't. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Uh, we'll see you next time.